be talking or complaining about it would be the drivers, because there are some systems that obviously are taking that cameras on the driver to see drowsiness and whatever else they might be doing. And, things they may catch in their camera that are sort of incidental, like if they have a Bendix system that have a camera with it and you have a whole bunch of license plates in there. It's so disaggregated that like not one individual is going to get up and say, hey, you were driving past me and you captured my license plate and you knew where I was at the time. It's so disaggregated. There's not like a single party that's been, that would have the privacy concern to say I'm going to make a big deal out of it. So I think that's maybe the benefits, the right word that I guess the trucking industry has had, is you just don't have people who are either aware of it or aggregated in such a way they're going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just thinking, I really haven't heard not even a single, at a conference, at a customer, no one's ever said a single word about sort of the data worries on commercial vehicle, at least. I know on light vehicle for sure, on commercial vehicle, no one's really talked about it at all.
Yeah, okay, good. And then the second question, lots of times this data is hosted by the provider. Telogis, for an example. They could have access to all this data, and they could apply their machine learning algorithms to it and come up with data that could potentially help the fleet manager train their drivers differently, optimize their maintenance schedules, I don't know, whatever it might be. Do you see much emphasis being put on monetization of the data that these fleets are capable of collecting?
That's, I think, that's why when we were at Meritor, that's what we were looking at, doing exactly that. That's the whole reason we wanted to get into the telematics game, was to do that exact play. And for Meritor, it's a little bit different because it was not only the ability to sell the service, but it's also the fact that Meritor, as an aftermarket supplier, could then use that to go, have promotions at the right time, send you an email right when we know you're about to do a brake change, saying here's a coupon on Meritor brakes. That was sort of the whole worldview was doing that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, the problem you encounter, at least when you're, the problem you encounter trying to take it to the next level of recommendations is, it sounds trite. It's very hard, actually. What we find at Meritor is that, for example, to be able to predict based on just the way the driver was braking and accelerating, here's how much brake life is left. It's very difficult. It's just very hard to do without a sensor actually right on the brake, right? And things like efficiency and whatever else. Most fleets are world-class at this. Like, that's what they do. I mean, that's what they live and die by, is sort of management of that kind of thing. And so there's always a question whether, yes, we should do that. Yes, if I'm Telogis, if I'm Omnitrax, if I'm Meritor even trying to get into this, that really is the goal, is to try and use sort of big data, machine learning, whatever, to try and glean out sort of interesting outputs or interesting analysis of the data and even feed it back in real time would be the real goal, and be able to adjust the driver's behavior real time, like flash a message or text them saying, hey, drive like this instead. It's hard. At least you can do basic things, like a basic, like, hey, stop accelerating so hard. I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? But to say, like, okay, I found a wider trend of, like, your brakes always fail on this particular vehicle after this many miles or whatever else. So I always found it more difficult from just a purely capability standpoint to do that, because it's such a noisy metric, right? There's so much other stuff that goes into it, to be able to purely do it from like an OBD2 dongle or an iPhone app or whatever was difficult. But I think that's where it goes next, because I think that's what, the fleets can do some of that themselves, but that's not that's not really their core competency, right? That's what they're going to do. They need someone to help them do that. And so a company that can crack that and really take all this aggregated data and come up with some real insightful, game-changing solutions, I mean, that to me is a huge opportunity. And you see particularly suppliers are all trying to attack this too. I mean, not just Meritor. You look at Dana as well. I think other companies, they're all trying to make their devices, their products more smart. And that's the exact reason why they're doing it, is they want to make them smart and they can somehow get the data back themselves and use that to optimize them, communicate with fleets about things they could be doing differently, whatever else. But it's all pockets. It's on certain components. There's really not one player out there I look and say, yep, they've cracked this whole thing. They get it. Like, they know how to take all this data, take it, analyze it, and come up with really big, insightful things the fleet didn't already know. Just not there yet, but I think that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Hey, we're at an hour, which is my limit. Thank you very much for taking time with me today. A lot of good perspectives, not the same perspectives as I get from a lot of my other interviews. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
You have a great evening.
Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.